Now, what did the uh, principal have to say in response to just after the child's death?
Basically, the way I interpreted what you just heard on that tape, it was almost like she was blaming the mother. That's the way I took it. Now, that's just my opinion. But, she was justifying letting this child, the principal, meaning the principal, was justifying putting this child who was in respiratory distress in the back seat of a car with a mother by herself. She was justifying it by saying, well, we told her to take her to the emergency room, when the first thing that should have been called, in my opinion, was 911, not the mother.
Now, Brian, as the parent of a special needs child, would you send your child to a school like this?
Not at all, actually. It's actually very disturbing, hearing that, because my son actually has a severe peanut allergy. So I can kind of relate to that situation, and I would expect 911 to be called right away. I mean, it's just plain common sense at this point.
And, I don't want to twist this around a little bit, but I know that according to what we were talking about earlier, that one of the particular heads of the schools didn't want 911 called basically because it made the school look bad. And to me, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, we're talking about a child's life here. Give me a break.
Now, Dan, as a special needs teacher, I mean, you said you haven't seen anything like this so far in your travels.
No, I work in a public school and I haven't seen anything like this. But I can say that it just, as an educator, it makes me sick, because I find the first piece of my job is to just make sure that the children are safe when they're in my care. I mean, they're under my care for 7-8 hours a day, and I find it, just unbelievable. But that someone in charge of a school like that would not want to, keep those children safe the best they can.
Dan, are you happy you don't have to deal with some, or maybe you do, you haven't seen yet, some of the horror stories that your father had to encounter? I'm sure you're well prepared for some of those things.
I'm thankful every day I don't have to deal with that. I used to work in a special needs summer camp that I saw a little bit. Nothing to the extent like that's in the book, Mommy, I Wish. But in the public schools, you don't see it as much. Maybe it's because we're in the public school, so we're not isolated as the specific special needs schools are. So we're more in the public eye, and to a certain extent, the teachers can't get away with the stuff like they do in the special needs schools.
And people like your father bringing it to light has helped the situation, and certainly you're there to help enforce it and keep things up.
Like I said, I find my number one job is to keep the kids safe before I can do anything else. If they're not safe, they're not going to learn, so I got to do that first.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, listen, sorry, cut in here. We have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more with Rick, Dan, and Brian about what's going on with the special needs bullying and how this just affects everybody. But go ahead, Eric. Go ahead and take us on out of here, and then we will be right back. We'll just say that Megan won tonight. We've got a lot to get to, so we will talk a little bit more about that later. But we do want to get back here. We've got Rick Stripp, Dan Stripp, and Brian Wynn on the phone. And I guess, Rick, what were you saying?
Well, we're running short on time, so I'll just cut this short. If people could visit my website, www.mommyiwish.com, and they could take a look at the book. And a lot of the problems encountered in these special needs schools is this staff falsely believe that many of these children can't learn, so why even bother teaching them? And the abuse comes in a lot with children that are nonverbal because they cannot go home and tell mom and dad what happened at school, and it's terrible.
I want to go ahead and play this last clip, just so and it's kind of along the lines of what we're talking about here, just so people will get an idea of what some of these people are actually saying and thinking out there. Go ahead, AY, play that last clip for me.
Now, it's something you cannot change, accept it, and go on with it, and deal with it, and be funny. And the same thing with the people here. You're not going to change people, especially adults. They are what they are. Work with them, yes, and that's what I try to do. So that's what I can tell you. I'm the supervisor, and I have to call it the way I see it.
You're not going to be able to change people. I'm a supervisor, and I call it the way that I see it.
That is the principal of the school that I was working at. That was her response to me. I was in a meeting with her in her office, and that was her response to my complaining about the way that staff was abusing children, both verbally and physically, the way that staff was neglecting children by letting them sit. A lot of these children can't do the personal hygiene themselves, and they're in diapers.
So they're sitting in messy diapers.
They're sitting in messy
hours.
diapers, and I'm complaining about this to the teacher, and I'm also complaining about, to the principal, and I'm also complaining about what I mentioned a little bit earlier, that they don't even attempt to teach some of these children. They put them in these wheelchairs, and they face them at a wall, and they talk about what they saw on TV last night. And that was the principal's response to me, that I can't change people, that. And I found that horrible.
She's talking she can't change the staff. They're adults.
Yes.
Well, they need to overhaul the whole system, starting with the principal.
Absolutely.
And I think
That's
that
what they need to do.
a lot of the abuse that we see too comes from a certain amount of ignorance. The staff there may not understand the disabilities that they're faced with because they don't get any training to get hired. And when they come in and they don't understand what they're being faced with, and it only takes so long before they get frustrated enough that they stop caring, or they straight up start being abusive towards the kids.
And this is a line of work. You got to be honest with yourself. You're either cut out for it or you're not. If you're not a compassionate person, this is not your line of work.
Absolutely.
And obviously they're not screening people for that,
Right.
to see whether they have a passion for it or not.
No.
And you not only have to be compassionate, but you have to have patience. And
Right.
and even and I talk about this in the book. Even the best of people, you can get burnt out. It's not easy. It's not an easy job.
Right, and I do want to go before we do get. I don't want, before everything gets swept away here. I don't want to lose track of what Brian's doing and what his Facebook page is all about. So, Brian, if you can kind of tie in what you're doing here with what we're talking about, and we've got about 2 minutes.
Sure, not a problem. Basically, Autistic Playground was founded in late February 2011. The reason why it was actually created was my son was diagnosed at 18 months, and when he was diagnosed, I had actually no clue what autism was. Doing research of my own to better educate myself, I read a lot of news articles, and I came to a point at one time, and I thought, why not put this on a public forum where everyone can actually read what I'm reading, and make it accessible as a one-stop place for autism news. And basically, that's how we were actually founded.
So people can go out there and they can, and it's Autistic Playground, and it's all one word. It's not two words like I was trying to find yesterday.
Facebook.com/Autistic Playground.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is Rick Stripp, and I use Brian's site all the time, and Brian posts just a plethora of information every week. It's really worth checking out.
And mommyiwish.com for the book, Mommy, I Wish I Could Tell You What They Did to Me in School Today.
So, and we've revisited this topic several times in the last couple of months, and I can't stress enough how important this is, and it's something that I hope people aren't tired of listening to, because we need to follow up on it and to keep an eye on what's going on. We got about 30 seconds here. Rick, I want to thank you for coming on. Dan, thank you very much. Brian,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
us.
We will be talking to you again soon in the future. Thank you. Autistic Playground. Harry. Brent.
Adios, amigo.
That was a little cross, wasn't it? You like that? All right. Next week, we got another great show for you. And don't forget, mommyiwish.com. Thank you very much. You guys were great. We had a great time this past weekend.
My pleasure. God bless.
All right, everybody, I won't be here next week, but have a great 4th of July.
Mahalo.
As we say at the end of the show,
Mahalo.